Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF Hayemi Bava Kamma Daf Yud Zayin. We begin right on top, Tanu Rabbanon, with a piece of Agada to Gemara. Tanu Rabbanon back to Chizkiyahu HaMelech, where it says V'kavod asuloi b'moisai. They accorded him great honor after his passing. Who is it referring to, and what did they do? Says the Gemara, Chizkiyahu, the king of Yehuda, Melech Yehuda, sheyatzu lefanav shloishim v'shisha elef chalutzei kasef. There was such an expression of mourning. 36,000 people walked ahead of his coffin, chalutzei kasef, with exposed shoulders, as a sign of avelus. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, Amar lei Rab Nechemya. What's the big deal? V'aloi lifnei Achav asukein. Even by Achav the king, who wasn't a great man, there was also such a grand expression of mourning. So what's the big deal? Ella, rather, the kavod done to Chizkiyahu was as follows: Sheinichu sefer Torah al mitasa. They put a sefer Torah on his bed. V'amru, and they declared, Ki im zeh, he fulfilled, Chizkiyahu fulfilled, mashakasa b'zeh, all that is contained in this Sefer Torah. Asks the Gemara again, what's the big deal? Nowadays we also do that for great men. So what's the big deal that it was done for Chizkiyahu? Answers the Gemara, there is one difference. Sure, we'll carry the Sefer Torah ahead of a great man after his passing to indicate that he was a man of great stature, connected to the Torah. But Anuchi, to actually place the Sefer Torah on the Mita, Loi Manchina, we don't do that. And that was unique by Chizkiyahu. People say another pshat. Anuchi Nami Manchina, perhaps nowadays we also do that. We place the Sefer Torah on the Mita. But this declaration to say Kiyim, while he is in full fulfillment of all that's contained in the Torah, that was unique by Chizkiyahu HaMelech. Kiyim Le'amrina, we don't say that today. Omar Rabba Bar Bachana, one day Havazilna, Bahaded Rabbi Yehuda, I was walking behind Rabbi Yehuda, Lemishal Shmata, to ask him some questions in halacha. In any case, Kava'ayil Beis HaKisei, as he was entering the Beis HaKisei, Vavavina Mnei Milsa. So then I started discussing with him something. Loi Pashat Lan, he didn't respond. Adam Asher Yadai, Umanach Tefillin, Umavarech, until he washed his hands, placed his tefillin back on himself, Umavarech, and made a bracha on the tefillin. And then afterwards, he responds. V'hada Amrlan, he told us like this. Afilu kiyem amrinan, but limei lo amrinan. Even if nowadays we may say kiyem, this departed chacham did fulfill everything in the Torah. Well, we'll say that, but there is something we still won't say, something which was unique to Chizkiyahu. Limei lo amrinan, we will not say that he taught everything contained in this Torah. So the question is, it almost sounds like, learning Torah is greater than fulfilling the Torah and keeping the mitzvahs. We learned that it's the other way around. Gadol, Talmud, Torah, shal limud mevedei maisa. The greatness of Torah is that when one, gets immersed in learning Torah, in the ways of Torah, in the halachos, the details, the way of life, it binds him to the Torah. It makes him aware. It makes him cognizant. It makes him focused on the Torah way of life, as the Mesilas Yesharim explains. That's why we say Torah brings l'dei zehirus. Torah mevia brings to carefulness, because when a person is intellectually connected to Torah, that becomes his focus and his way of life. So bottom line is, Torah is meant to generate fulfillment of Torah. Shal limud me'odei maisa, which sounds like Masa is the ultimate goal, which in a way is higher than learning the Torah. And here we say that, we may say about a Chacham, he was Mekayim everything, but not Limed, because that's unique to Chizkiyahu. Being Mekayim is greater than Limed. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Big difference between learning and teaching, like Kashu. Holim Migmar, regarding one's own personal learning, so fulfillment stands higher than learning. Holag Muri, but teaching others is a greater schus, Mzakas Harabim, bringing others to learn and to fulfill is an even greater schus, and that was unique as part of the declaration by Chizkiah HaMelech that he was limaid everything in the Torah. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Mishum Rabbi Shimon Yochai. What does the pasuk mean when it says Ashreichem Zoyrei al Kol Mayim Mishalchi Regel Hashav Achamar? It means like this: Zoyrei al Kol Mayim is referring to a person who is immersed in Torah and Chesed. Kol Oisek b'Torah u'b'gmilas chasadim. If a person is involved in both, Zoychel Nachal Shnei Shvatim, he inherits the very unique qualities, the nachla, the territory, whether it's physical or spiritual aspects of these two shvatim, shnei shvatim. Which ones? We'll see in a minute. Shanamar ashreichem zoyrei. So the pasuk begins with these words. What is zoyrei? Bein zriya, that's giving tzedakah. Let's tzedakah. Shanamar zir lechem letzedakah v'kisru v'chassid. So we find zriya a reference to tzedakah. It says zoyrei al kol mayim. What is mayim referring to? Learning Torah. Bein mayim al Torah, of course. Shanamar hukol tzomei. A person is thirsty. He's looking to fulfill his desires. Really deep down, he's being driven by that spiritual void. Go ahead, open a Gemara, open a DAF. So in any case, the pasuk here is referring to a person who taps into Torah, taps into Chesed. And what is he? Zoiche? V'zoiche l'nachla shnei shvatim. Which two shvatim? Zoiche l'kila ki Yosef. Kila, the Farshim explains, like nichsef avigam kolso nafshi. People are drawn to him. He has influence on others. He's mashpia, like Yosef did. Shechsiv bein paras Yosef b'no Saad ali shur. So Yosef was a magnet. Yosef was something that people desired to connect to. People were drawn to him and to his leadership abilities. And the pasuk refers to him as a shur. So here as well, when it says that a person who is zoyrei and al kol mayim, Torah and gmilas chasadim, he connects to shor v'chamor, the qualities of Yosef, shor, v'zoichel nachlas Yisachar, and Yisachar, the qualities of Yisachar, which is chamor. The chsiv Yisachar chamor goram. And Rashi explains, goram is material wealth. So Yisachar to spiritual wealth and material wealth. There's another version of what happens here. Oivav neifel in front of Yosef. In what way does he connect to Yosef? His enemies fall away like those in front of Yosef. So this is the bracha to Yosef, that he will fell all his enemies. So he vanquishes his opponents. And he has the qualities of Yisachar with respect to Bina, a deeper understanding in Torah, etc. That was something unique to Yisachar. Bnei Yisachar. Yoide Bina le'itim ladas mayasi Yisrael. Okay, Hadron Allah Arba Avos. Says the Mishnah. Keitzad regel mu'edes l'shaber b'derech hilucha. So Rashi learns this is a question and an answer. Keitzad regel mu'edes, says Rashi Koloimar ba'meh haregel mu'edes. In what way do we say that the animals, walking and damaging as it does so, is considered a mu'ed, something anticipated, which he should have guarded against? The answer is l'shaber b'derech hilucha, to break something as it's walking, as it's striding along. That's called regel. It wasn't a deliberate, act of aggression. He's just striding along, and he sort of accidentally stepped on something. In that case, it's called regel, which you pay nezek shalim. And the Mishnah continues with another statement, which almost sounds like a repetition. And the Gemara will address this. The behemoth is liable to walk along the road and break things as it's walking. However, it was kicking. Kicking is an act of aggression. Or as the animal is striding along, it sort of flicks some pebbles over to the side, which cause damage. That's an indirect damage. That's called tzreiros. The shibras hakelim broke some kalim while doing so. Mishalom chatzi nezek. Now it's down to a chatzi nezek. Why? Because of two reasons, really. Miva'etes is an expression of aggression, of keren. It's a variation of keren. And therefore, there's chatzi nezek, if in fact it's a sheratam. In the second case, although it's really a variation of regel, pebbles flickering as he's walking along, but since it happened in an indirect fashion, through the koyach of the behemoth, not through the guf of the behemoth, there's halachah mishmei Sinai, that it's bumped down from nezek shalom to chatzi nezek. And the Mishnah now will present three more examples of tzreiros. Dorsan la kli shvaratu. The behemoth stepped on a kli, and smashed it, and that very sort of force caused the kli to jump away and cause further damage. V'nafal al kli achar shvari. That first kli that got directly damaged through regel went and flew over and broke something else. So what is the owner chayiv? Al rishon mishalom nezek shalom. He has to pay 100% for the first kli, but that's typical regel. But the second kli, which was damaged, sort of by that ricochet, mishalim chatzi nezek. That's tzreiros, which generates a half a nezek. Third example of tzreiros, hater negolim mu'adin lahalach kedarkan l'shaber. Tanagolim are accustomed to, walking along and breaking things as they're walking. But in the following case, it's called tzreiros. So he had the little kosher baraglov. He had some sort of strap flapping from his foot. Or he's dancing up and down, jumping around, and by doing so, something ricocheted and broke something. Mishalom chatzi nezek. In this case, it's tzreiros, which only generate a 50% liability. Now, why does the Mishnah begin with that sort of redundancy? Once the Mishnah discussed ha-regel mu'edes lahalach kedarka l'shaber, why repeat the same thing with behema mu'edes lahalach kedarka l'shaber? Isn't that a repetition? Amalei, he says, look, Tana Aves, Tani told us, regel is the primary limb, which identifies with the, the regel category. So that's the av. And then we have habehema mu'edes lahalach kedarka l'shaber. Rashi explains, by way of its body, walking along and shoving things as it's walking. That's sort of a derivative of the regel, which is the actual foot crashing something down. So we have the avos and the tolos. Says the Gemara El Miyat, if that's the case, save for diktoni. Let's take a look at the next Mishnah, which discusses shame, damage by consumption. So the Mishnah on DAF Yutes Amud Beis begins by saying, Hashem mu'edes le'echel esaroi lo. Okay, you expect the animal to eat, edible stuff, even if she doesn't necessarily have permission to do so. And then the Mishnah continues, habehema mu'edes, a repetition, habehema mu'edes le'echel peres v'yirakas. So the same question there. Elamiata sefer diktoni Hashem mu'edes. And then again, habehema mu'edes. What's the repetition about? My avos, my tiladis ika. Those are both avos. Consuming with your mouth. That's avos. So why the repetition? So this was asked to Rava by Ravina. Bava Kamma. So Rava responded sort of in jest. But Amalei tells him, look, I already gave you an answer on the first part. I answered the first Mishnah, right? Now it's your turn. You explain the other thing. No, but time am I. So really, what is the reason? Omar of Ashi. I'll tell you why the second Mishnah repeats and gives us two sort of variations of shame. Tana Shem de Chaya, Tana Shem de Behema. The Mishnah covers both the animal eating and the behema eating. Why would I think there's a difference? Perhaps I would say, Pasuk says, he sent bi'iroi and went and consumed, his friend's produce. Bi'iroi, Rashi says, is the definition, is the translation of behema. The targum of behema is bi'iroi. Interesting. We have a targum word within the Torah. V'shilach is bi'iroi. Because if behema in chayiloi, perhaps only behema is included in this halacha b'nam chay kamash malon. That's why the Mishnah has to repeat it. It applies to behema and to chaya. Kamash malon the chaya b'chlal behema. Says the Gemara, if that's the case, that the Mishnah is trying to cover both things, behema and chaya, then which one should be said first? The one that's explicitly mentioned in the pasuk, that goes first. Behema, and then speak about chaya. And the Mishnah puts it the other way around. Behema is the second line in the Mishnah, and not the first. Yachi. Should have had behema first, not second. The answer is, the Tana likes to introduce us to something which he toiled for, which he made effort to achieve. We want to bring chaya first. That's a chiddush, that's a novelty. And then behema comes second, because that's the more simple and obvious halacha. If that's the case, Reish Nami. Let's go back to our Mishnah. Two forms of regel. We have sort of the standard regel, walking along and damaging through his actual feet. Then we have those sort of the offshoot of regel, residual damage as he's walking along and shoving things by the way. So which one should be said first? The one that is a chiddush should be first. The one that's not so clear to us. The one that's bodily related, not feet enabled, feet related. Listen, it should have been the one that's not clear in the pasuk. That should be first. And our Mishnah actually says it the other way around. First comes regel, which is the more obvious case, and then comes by way of his body. Says the Gemara, you can't compare. Some idi of his nino. When it comes to the shein, behema, and chaya, they're both primary examples of shein, consumption, straightforward consumption. And therefore, when we have a choice, which one to state first, the behema or the chaya, well, the drasha comes first because that's more dear to us. Hachta asyiv le midrasha, which is the chaya, chaviv le, it's precious, and that goes first. That makes sense over there, but over here by regel, hacha shavek av betoni tolda. Why would he sort of leave the av by the wayside, the primary expression of regel, which is damaging by way of actually walking and foot related? Why would he leave that for a second, betoni tolda, and leave the tolda and put the tolda ahead of that? One is an av, one is a tolda. Naturally, the av goes first. Iboy say another reason why the Mishnah would start with the actual regel description. I did the salak min regel, pasach regel, because in the last parak on DAF Tezvav, we made reference to damage through regel. So sort of we're picking up where we left off, and therefore we start with a reference to regel as well. Tana Rabbah. So behema is expected to just break things as it walks along, and therefore you're 100% responsible. Ketzad, give me an example. A behema enters the property that belongs to the victim, which is actually the only place you're liable for shein v'regel. Ubir b'stei acher, right? So you went to the sadeh hanizik, v'zika, and it caused damage in any one of the following scenarios: begufa derachilucha, through it's guf, like shoving along as it's walking, ubisar derachilucha, or as it's walking along its hair, the animal's hair got caught up in something and caused damage. Ubukav shaleh, by way of its saddle, ubishliv shaleh, by way of its load, ubiprum yoshev pia, by way of the bit sticking out of its mouth, ubizuk shebetzavar, the bell around its neck, v'chamor b'masoy, or a donkey by way of its load that knocked something over, mishalom nezek shalom, you're fully responsible. Sumchas omer, he says like this: tzroiros, if the animal shot some pebbles and they caused damage, or b'chazir, a swine, shayinover ba'ashba, which was rummaging through the garbage, and sort of triggered something which ricocheted and caused hezik, v'hizik, mishalom nezek shalom, you pay 100%. Hizik, if you caused direct damage, you actually physically, struck something, pshita, of course you pay 100%. What's the point of even mentioning that? Ella, or rather say like this: hit is v'hizik, mishalom nezek shalom. So although it wasn't a direct hit, he triggered something else which went and ricocheted off and hit something. You pay 100%. That's tzroiros, which according to Sumchos is fully responsible. Asks the Gemara, why even discuss tzroiros? Flying, items, fighting flying objects. Tzroiros. Mandachar Shemai, whoever discussed projectiles which cause damage. Rather, the brisa is meant to be read like this: if the animal, as it's naturally walking along, triggers some pebbles which cause damage, you go down to 50% payment. Likewise, a chazir is doing the same thing in the ashpa and triggers something. On this, Sumchas disagrees. Sumchas Omer, you should know tzroiros, v'chazir, shaynever ba'ashpa, v'hitis, all these forms of indirect damaging mishalom nezek shalom is 100% responsible, because according to Sumchas, there's no discount for tzroiros. Let's have some more examples of direct and indirect damages. You have some chickens fluttering around from place to place, and their wings struck out and damaged. Mishalem nezek shalom or mishalmin nezek shalom, you pay full. But if the damage was triggered by some fluttering of wind, ruach, which was generated by their fluttering wings, mishalman chatzi nezek, in that case it's called tzreiros. It's indirect damaging, it's 50% nezek. Sumchas Omer, he disagrees, he says, even by tzreiros, even though it's indirect nezek shalom, you pay fully. Tani Yidach, we have another brisa. Tarnagoyim sheyimahad sin al gabi isa. You have some tarnagoyim hopping around on a dough, bal gabi peros, or on fruit, v'tinfu, and they dirtied them, or nikru, or they pecked into them, mishalman nezek shalom, you pay fully. Hello, offer tzreiros, but if they kicked up some dirt or pebbles, in which case the nezek happened through tzreiros, through an indirect fashion, mishalman chatzi nezek, you only pay half. Sumchas Omer, even in this case, nezek shalom. Tani Yidach, we have another brisa. Tarnagol sheyimafriach makom makom, a tarnagol who was flying around, v'yotzes ruach matachas knofav, v'shibras hakelim, and it generated some gust of air, which broke a kli. Mishalom chatzi nezek. That's an example of tzreiros once again, which pays half stomach rabbanon. This anonymous price that follows the rabbanon. Tzreiros equals chatzi nezek. Amarav. Let's try to understand the shitas rabbanon. I understand sumchas very well. He holds that even nezek, which occurs through koyach, through indirectness, is regarded as the guf. After all, he brought it about. He's fully responsible. You pay fully. Ella rabbanon. How do we understand the rabbanon? That this form of regal damaging only gets you 50% liability. If koyach is regarded as the guf, we consider it like a direct hit, kulei nezek boy l'shalom, pay 100%. Vilav kiguf idami, if it's not like his guf, let him be totally absolved. Chatzi nezek, not really l'shalom, pay nothing. Hadamar Rabba explains like this. Lo'elam kiguf idami. You're right. The starting point is that koyach and guf are synonymous. You're fully responsible for any damage incurred by your animal, whether it's directly or indirectly. So why do we get that discount? It's a special halacha. Chatzi nezek tzreiros. Hilchas Agmir law is halacha meshmi Sinai that takes it from 100% to 50%. Amar Rava, kol shebezav tami. When a zav touches something or somebody directly, he makes him tummy. Tumah gets transferred. So this type of situation, whereby a zav would constitute a direct transfer of tumah, v'nezaken mishalom nezek shalom. Likewise, in the case of an animal who similarly contacted something, with a direct hit, that generates nezek shalom. However, if it's indirect, kol shebezav tar, if, let's say, the zav interacted with somebody very indirectly, he threw a banana at him, so the tumah does not get transferred. I shouldn't say banana, it's food. He threw a ball at him, so the tumah does not get transferred from the zav to the recipient, because there was no direct contact. And therefore, the same by nezaken, we have this equation of nezaken mishalom chatzi nezek. If an animal did hezek in an indirect fashion, like tzreiros, it's 50% liability. What's the point of making this formula? What is he teaching us something new? What's Rava coming to tell us? Tzreiros, the concept of indirectness, as-lashmina, is that what he's coming to tell us? That's a known halacha. Actually not. Rava, egla me'shechetz bekarin kamashmalan. He's coming to teach us something else. You have an egla, a calf, pulling a wagon, and it happens to pull it over, some unfortunate, item sitting there which gets crushed. Is the owner of the animal chayiv? Of course, because it's strapped to the egla, and as Rashi points out, it's called guf. It's not called tzreiros. It's direct damage, because it's strapped to the animal who's shoving it and pulling it over the item and damaging. It's like an extension of the animal. It's like yada arich, like an extended hand. Which, in a case of a zav, would have similar repercussions. If picture a zav is sitting on a wagon, which is now rolling over something, the tumah gets transferred from the zav through the wagon onto that item as well. It's considered like direct contact, rather than indirect. So that's the point of Rava, to bring out this aspect. Tanakh may say the Rava, we have a brisa which supports Rava, that this is called direct effect rather than indirect. A behema is expected to break things out as he's walking along. Keitzad, for instance, behema shnichus chatzar nizak. Behema enters the chatz of the nizak. V'yizika begufa, and did damage by way of its body moving along. The rechilucha, as it's walking, through its hair, the rechilucha bukav shaleh, saddle b'shli shaleh, the load b'prumish pia, bit in its mouth, b'zuk shub tzavar, the bell around its neck, b'chamar b'masoi, load of a donkey. And here comes the punchline: ve'egla moisheches be'karin, pulling a wagon over something, b'shalman, that's a ksholim, it generates full liability. So the Tarnagoyim, the chickens are pecking at this rope from which a pail is hanging. So although you would think this is an act of deliberate aggression, but it's not so. This is the derech. This is their modus operandi. They peck at things. And ultimately the rope snaps and the pail cracks. They're fully responsible. It's not called tzroiret. It's not called keren. It's just he enjoys it. It's like an expression of shame. It's just the way of life for the tarnagol. It's like shame v'regel, and he's fully chayiv. By Rav, listen to this question presented by Rav. You have an animal walking on the road. Darsal kli happens to chance upon a kli, steps all over it. V'loish v'raseh, the kli is pretty resistant, no breakage. But that sort of bang, that pressure, that kinetic energy, pushed the kli. V'nizgalgu mokim acher. Now the kli rolled away. V'nishbar, and broke, elsewhere, crashed into a wall and broke there. Ma, what would you say in this case? Is it direct damage? You pay nezek shalom. Was it called like tzroiros? Because ultimately, the actual moment of contact between animal and kli did not result in breakage. It happened only later. So perhaps that's called like secondary damage, indirect damage, which constitutes tzroiros, 50% payment. Mao, and he explains it. Basar b'yikuras lim. Do we look at the initial moment where they came into contact with each other? That actually generated the breakage, eventually, because that's when he sort of, invested his energy into this kli, which ultimately made it roll away and break. V'gufay, and therefore it's considered direct contact. Gufay, and he's chayiv nezek shalom. Oidilma basar tzvar mona aslino. Do we look at the moment of breakage which happened a mile away? Utzorestino, it's called indirect, like tzroiros. That's Rabbi's shayla. Asks the Gemara, Tiv shalei mid Rabbah. Perhaps Rabbah can gain clarity from Rabbah's halacha, which discusses a very similar point. Moment of contact or moment of breakage. Da'amar Rabbah, Zora kli mirish hagag. Imagine a fellow takes a kli, throws it off the roof. So it's about to break down there, but it hasn't yet broken. It's slated for breakage, but not yet. Reuven comes along, throws the thing off the roof. Shimon runs over, mid-air, strikes the thing and breaks it before it got a chance to land and splatter. He's potter. You know why? It was, for all practical purposes, useless. It was about to break once it collides with the ground below. Then we tell the owner of the kli, Mana Tvira Tavar, he just broke something which was already broken, so to speak. So evidently, we relate to that initial moment of contact. As soon as the fellow initiated a process which inevitably leads to this item being broken or damaged, even if there's a delay between his masa and the effect of his masa, but ultimately he brought about that damage. It relates to him and that moment of contact. We see that from the fact that Shimon is potter for breaking this thing mid-air, because it's considered a broken item. What do you mean broken? Who broke it? Reuven broke it by way of throwing it off the roof. It's considered for practical purposes a broken item, because we sort of see it as an act of breakage, because this will cause breakage, albeit, with a few second delay. Likewise in the case of the animal. True, it took a couple of seconds to break on the other side of the road, but who tossed it over? Who initiated that breaking process? The shur, directly. It's called gufa. So Rabbah should have clarity from this halacha. Answers the Rabbah pshitale. This was clear to Rabbah. That we look at the moment of initiation. The Rabbah wasn't clear, and therefore he had a shayla. Tashma, we're going to try to prove this point from a brayso. Hidus ein amud, v'yeshoim hariz amud. Hidus means that, the tarnagol jumping around. He breaks something, muad, 100% chayev. V'yeshoim, some say no, ein amud. Right? Now, hidus hakadaitach. You mean to say he's actually jumping around and breaking things? Of course he's a muad. That's his, ordinary behavior. That's regal. Must be that what happened was he jumped around and he struck an item which didn't break at that very moment. Rather, it rolled away and then it broke. Welcome, and this very point is the machlekes in our price. The Mar Sava Basam Yikara Azlinam. The Shita that says he does his muad, fully responsible, Basam Yikara. We look at the moment of contact, initiation. It was direct contact which eventually brought that hezek, it fully chayiv. Umar Sava Basam Tzvar Azlina. The other Shita says no. This is Troyres, because we look at where the mana, the kli was broken. And when did it happen? 2 minutes later. Sure, you caused it, but it was indirect. So apparently, this question of Rava is really machlekes tanoim. Lo, he says the Gemara, behitas Troyres. We're not speaking that he actually broke this first kli that he touched. No. What happened was that he never made contact with a kli at all. He was walking along the road. Well, actually, in this case, the Tarnagel was jumping around and flicked some tzroiros, some pebbles, which ultimately shot out and struck a kli. So he never actually made contact with the kli. These tzroiros are external elements coming to attack a kli. So this shar never actually interacted with the kli, and therefore there's no question it's not gufay. Although he caused damage, but it was a process. He hit the tzroir, which hit the kli. That kli was very much removed from the shar, from the tarnagel. So it's your classic case of tzroiros, and that's the machlekes. What is the halacha by tzroiros? We had a machlekes, right, between sumchas and rabbanon. We plucked the sumchas, rabbanon kamifli, and that's the machlekes here as well. Okay, let's recap today's daf. We learned about the cover that was done to Chizkiah Melech, the great teacher, the great learner of Torah, the great keeper of Torah, and fulfiller of Torah. A person who immerses in Torah brings chasadim, mezeicha to lots of schar, spiritual and material. Regel constitutes just walking along naturally and damaging in that manner, whether by way of his foot, by way of his body. We were introduced to the concept of tzroiros, where there was an indirect mazik by flicking something which eventually struck something else. Chacham say chatzi nezek. More explains. Really, koiches kigufa with this halacha mishmir Sinai that's downgraded to chatzi nezek. Sumchas was not mekawel halacha mishmir Sinai. He holds tzroiros is nezek shalim. We have Rava's interesting question. You hit something, it breaks later. Is it considered direct damage or indirect? We thought it was machlekes tanoim, which turns out not to be necessarily such. All the best to you and hatzlacha Rabbah.